everyone, and welcome to Sharin Stories. I'm your host, Peaks, with my two beautiful co-hosts, Sarah States and the real St. Paul. This is not a therapy session. You will not find mental health professionals here, nor are we substitute for said people. We are just regular people sharing our stories with mental health. On the podcast today, we are welcoming a digital nomad and TikTok star, someone who is trying to redefine wellness travel while sharing his experiences with the world. From what I've seen, he is beyond interesting and certainly comes with an unbelievable story to tell. So everyone, please welcome Kevin Diamond, or as many of you may know him as WellnessKev. Thank you very much, Kevin.
Thank you guys. Thank you. That was awesome. That intro touched my soul. So thank you.
Oh, well, I appreciate that. But I know I didn't do you justice. So really quickly, if you could just kind of introduce yourself as well, let the people know who you are.
Yeah, for sure. So I think I'll give like the 30-second background and then the 5-second. So the 30-second is born upstate New York, grew up in Connecticut, college in Boston, got a travel job after that in Costa Rica. I never even Googled Costa Rica, just moved there. My parents were like, "You're crazy. This is a scam." And then met a girl, moved to San Diego with her, moved to the Virgin Islands, had the breakup, did the whole like healing journey since then, moved from St Croix because I thought that was my dream life, like living in the Virgin Islands. So then I was like, oh crap, now I'm a single guy. Don't want to retire at 27 years old when I was there. And I was like, what now? And so I ended up moving to San Francisco, tech company, venture capital. And then I was like, crap, I'm not chasing the dollar for the rest of my life. Now what? Moved back to the East Coast, worked at a private school for students with learning disabilities. And then I was like, all right, I'm ready to travel again. 9 to 5, still not for me. And so packed up everything just this September 2020 and found a way to get to Bali. And so that's kind of like the long. And then the short was just, somebody that's always loved travel, but never saw myself as a traveler. Like I think it was 2013. I put a little video out on Indiegogo. And I was like, hey guys, like I'm from a small town. I want to see the world. If anyone could support me, I'm trying to save up $2,000 to go to Nicaragua. And so it's just funny to reflect back on that as like, it was just a few years back. I was the kid that I never even had travel as like a part of how anyone saw me. And now that's my world. So yeah, a little bit about me, but again, so stoked to be with you guys.
Really quickly, man, you've done like enough jobs for a 75-year-old at this point, and you've moved enough times for like an 80.
Dude, it's exhausting. Oh yeah.
Whatever it is. Also, where in upstate New York are you from?
I was born in Rhinebeck, but like Kingston area, Hudson Valley.
Oh, okay, cool.
Right.
So
we're from Buffalo.
Oh, good stuff. I played hockey out there once. But yeah, is it still I-90? You go all the way east from there to like Albany,
exactly.
hour south of Albany. Yeah.
Oh, perfect.
Nice.
All right, nice. Awesome. Yeah, so well, very nice to meet you, Kevin. It's a pleasure to have you on our show. So as what we normally would just start with is you kind of share your story, however you feel comfortable doing, in whatever way you want to talk about it, starting at whatever point you want to start. If you don't have any questions, then I'm just gonna leave the floor to you, and we're just gonna get going.
Cool. So I think my journey really started the year after college. I graduated in 2013. I was the class of 2013, and going into my senior year, I ended up getting a full-time job as a graphic designer 15 minutes from my hometown. That was my major. So junior spring going into senior summer, I got a full-time gig, and I was kind of able to turn it into a full-time internship that let me graduate college early. So again, always trying to save some money in the college route, and worked hard to convince my dean to let it count as 3 internships instead of 1 because it worked for the hours. And so I set myself up to graduate early. And so after that, I graduated in December. All my friends are still at college. I was like, oh, what did I do? I just left, party college. I'm supposed to be enjoying my second semester. And here I am working with like 50-year-olds in the middle of nowhere in the wintertime in Connecticut. So bit of a shock there. And it was kind of funny. I was helping my dad. My dad coaches high school hockey. He was always a very active father and coaching sports with us. And so I was helping him coach a hockey practice. And I ended up taking a slap shot, a puck to the face, and had to get like 2 metal plates in my face. I can like show you guys the scar a little bit, but where you would usually see like that slit under your eyes is actually like a scar and over here. And so the game changer for me, pun intended, and it wasn't even a cool story. Like it was a practice. I just got hit in the face with a puck. It was that I was happier being home on my parents' couch at 22 years old or whatever, not having to go to work, with a broken face watching HGTV instead of like going to work this 9 to 5. And so that was kind of an awakening for me that like I had to reevaluate what I was doing. And so flash forward a little bit, I ended up leaving that job that summer of 2013 just to go freelance for myself, start a web design business. Didn't really have anything in store. Thought of maybe making a social network. I was pretty entrepreneurial. And once I quit, I was kind of like, oh crap, like what do I do now? How do I have money coming in? And I think what happened next was what set me up for like the rest of my life, which was I learned that we're always provided for, like by the universe, God, whatever you believe, even when we don't know it. So only a few weeks after I quit and I was like trying to figure out my financial state and how I was going to make money, my friend reached out and he had cerebral palsy. He lived in a wheelchair. He was a year behind me at my college. And he was like, hey, I actually need a personal care assistant, somebody that can live with me, so I can live on college on my own this year, like in a studio. So I was like, oh, like pick me. And so it was cool. I actually moved back to the college campus that I had just spent 4 years at, which gave me a little kind of like space to kind of try out the social network on the college campus, focus on launching a web design business and live with a best friend. And so that was the start of my personal development journey because I started learning that in launching a business and in growing a business, I really needed to dive into personal development. And so I was able to, because I was living with that friend and I was comfortable on the college campus, I spent that whole year just diving into entrepreneur stuff, diving into personal development, personal growth. And that led me like on a spiritual journey as well, learning about, the law of attraction. I first read How to Think and Grow Rich, Napoleon Hill. And flash forward a year, it was kind of like a very transformational year. And so after that is when I started traveling a little bit. I did this trip with under 30 experiences. And again, this was a cool moment. This was just that following year, February now, 2014. It's like a $1,500 trip to Nicaragua, a little entrepreneurial. You could go as a solo person or as a couple. It was like a group of 15 people in Nicaragua. And my parents really like judged me for going. Here I am living with a friend on campus, not making a lot of money. And I remember my dad actually like sitting across a dinner table from me and being like, when you come back to the real world, like, let me know, like, this is playland. Like, pretty upset that I'm going to go spend $2,000 on my own, like without having an income really to go travel. And it was funny for me. And I kind of give him crap about it now because I took that trip and it was the first time I actually felt accepted for who I was. So I had worked really hard that year learning the personal development, but I learned that everyone in my life didn't really understand me. I was this kid that had these big entrepreneurial dreams that didn't want to work the 9 to 5. And everyone in my world had the belief that, like, no, like you have to struggle to survive. You have to work hard to make a living. Like, life isn't fun and rainbows. You can't do what you love and make money. And so going on this trip, it was the first time I was face to face in person with a group of people that had different beliefs that allowed me to just be my funny or whatever self, to dream big and accept me for that. And they only saw me as that. And I think that was so powerful and transformational for me to be seen by others in the way I wanted to see myself. And so again, flash forward, I wrap up that job with that buddy of mine. And about a year later, that same travel company ended up hiring me to run those trips in Costa Rica. So it all came full circle, which was very cool. And so yeah, so after that trip, I ended up traveling a little bit more. I got asked at that college to teach a web design class with students. I was traveling because one of the students I taught lived in Anguilla. His family invited me to come mentor him in Anguilla. So as I was doing more travels, that same company reached out now fall of 2015 and was like, hey, why don't you move to Costa Rica and run trips for us? And so that's when I started running trips. And that was like the taste of, holy crap, you actually can make money doing what you love. And again, I was making 1,500 US dollars a month. So nothing crazy, a little stipend and like all expenses paid, but it still allowed me to do something I loved, which for me broke the barrier of everything I knew growing up, which was like, you're not allowed or you can't make money doing what you love. Like, work and play are two very separate things. And I was always like very confrontational with that and trying to bring to the table, like, no, like you can blend work and play and like you can only work if you're enjoying it. And I had this like workaholic energy, but I wanted to put it into something I was actually passionate about. And so, yeah, those trips in Costa Rica changed my life. That was fall of 2015. I lived there December 2015 till April or May of 2016. And we would run like 15-person groups, like 4-night, 5-day trips to the beach, to the rainforest, doing amazing stuff. And that also grew me professionally because I was just a kid at that point. And now here I was, 24 years old, taking a group of 20-year-olds or early 30 somethings in a country that I didn't speak the native language. And so I had to just manage a lot of logistics. I learned Spanish. I became good enough in Spanish to coordinate with our shuttle buses, with all the tours, and to keep everyone safe. And so at the end of that trip, I had put in my like that I wasn't going to renew my contract because again, I knew I loved it, but I wanted to be able to do it for myself. I didn't want to have to, rely on a business to pay for my accommodations. And so my last literally 4 weeks of the trip in April, I think I ran 6 back-to-back trips, like a week at the rainforest, a week at the beach, flew to Nicaragua, did a week there, took a bus back to Costa Rica, spent a night, and then flew to Mexico, did a week there, and then like took a bus and a ferry to Belize and did 2 weeks there, all in literally like a month of April. And so for me, like it seems like nothing now, but back then that was huge to be able to plan that much logistics ahead of time, coordinate everything with only a bag packed and carry $5,000 cash on my back because if the credit machines or the ATMs ran out of money in Belize, my company still needed to provide dinner for our crew. So it was like I felt like I kind of became a man at those stages. And then the last leg of that journey was I met a girl not on one of the trips, but she was just traveling in Belize, and that was kind of like the romantic fling that took me where I lost myself and found myself again after that. And so on one of those last trips in Belize, I met now like a previous girlfriend of mine, and she was living in San Diego, and so I went from this traveler do what feels right world into like, oh, I have to be a man and I have to provide and I have to support myself in San Diego now after only having old web design clients in Connecticut. And so that took me on a whole different journey where I grew a web design business. And then we thought where we would settle down was the Virgin Islands. I bought a condo for cash in the Virgin Islands, sight unseen, during Hurricane Katrina and Irma. And again, everyone was like, you're crazy. This is a scam. And I just kind of like put the blinders on, ignored the world, and trusted that my condo would be fine when I got there. And sure enough, I got there, my condo was fine. And then I went through that breakup with that girlfriend being down there, which again was, I feel like we all have that turning point in our life where it was like, oh crap, what now? Like we thought we had this whole life vision that worked for us. And we were sometimes more in love with the vision than the situation. And then like that whole vision is shattered and everything we know is shattered. And it wasn't the healthiest relationship at all. So I kind of kept everything in my relationship private. So I felt really disconnected from all the friends in my life that I had built in those Costa Rica like travels, like that entire community that I created that let me feel accepted for who I am. I totally disconnected from during that relationship. So here I am, coming out of this relationship totally alone, totally disconnected, feeling like nobody knows me. And I have no idea who I am. I've been told different things of what I am in a relationship for so long. And it was pretty scary. And then I felt guilty because I had grown a drone business down in the Virgin Islands and I got paid. I was working for a private aviation company running a drone business under their umbrella. So we were doing drone data collection for general contractors, an oil refinery, like big time stuff. And they had invested in me to run this leg of the business. And then here I was a year later, like, oh crap, I don't want to be in St. Croix anymore. And so that was just May of last year, leaving St. Croix. I dealt with that January of 2019 through May of 2019 after the breakup. And then like, what now? And that's when I was like, okay, kind of pick up the pieces from where you are, try to create a new vision for yourself and start from scratch. And so left everything in St. Croix, left my land, sold my Jeep, and I ended up moving to San Francisco. And that was a woman who had started a second tech company, a second startup. Her first one was in drones. If you ever see the drones on UPS flying around, that was her first company. And I had met her just through Instagram. We can dive into that later. It's pretty cool. Built a whole relationship through Instagram because I was in the drone world. Her startup was in drones. And then I saw her launching a new company. She needed somebody in operations. I was like, I've been doing drone operations. I could do it for a government tech startup. Like, that sounds more meaningful. I was trying to find my purpose. And so I ended up moving to San Francisco with like no financial security. Me and her hadn't agreed on a compensation plan or anything. And I ended up just grinding for about 2.5, 3 months, like with her, probably 14, 15-hour days, 5, 6 days a week in Silicon Valley. But for me, it was like my first step into the tech capital, and imposter syndrome was like out the wazoo, like feeling like a small town kid in Silicon Valley, pitching mayors and trying to set up meetings with like mayors, chiefs of staff for like our gov tech software. And I was like totally out of my league, but it was cool. And again, through her, I built a relationship with a woman who ran a biotech fund, who was in venture capital, who was launching a family office, which I didn't even know what a family office was. I didn't even know what wealth management looked like. Like I had no idea what any of these terms were. I remember going to the first like VC party and being like, taking an Instagram, like tagging, like this is a VC. Like I didn't even know what venture capital really was. It was a riot. And so I ended up like moving from that gov tech job into doing operations for this VC fund. And again, that was a whole nother grind. I was working same thing, 6, 7 days a week, 15, 16 hours a day. This is just, August through November of 2019. And I even made a small angel investment, which was like cool as hell. I'm like, here I am making an angel investment. It wasn't a lot of money, but it was a cool company. And I still got to the point where like I kept getting burnt out. I would work so hard for that drone company in St. Croix, and then that wasn't it. And then I worked so hard for that gov tech company, and then I felt like that wasn't it. And then I worked so hard for venture capital, and then that wasn't it. And I really hit like my rock bottom last October. And I was just like, fuck, like, can I go on like this? Like physically, like suicidal thoughts, stuff, like, can I even survive? Like, this is just so depressing. Like all the feelings just keep catching up to me. I feel like I'm going so hard, but always in the wrong direction. And it kind of forced me to stop chasing things in my life and stop thinking that I know what I want for myself, and really surrender to the damn fact that like we don't always know what's best for us. And so I was just like, you know what? Crap. I need to let my purpose catch up to me. I felt like when I was in the drone world, I was working for my boss's purpose. He was the aviation guy. When I was in the gov tech world, I was working for my boss's purpose. She was the government woman from Dominican Republic. When I was in the VC world, it was my other boss's world. She was the money lady. I was like, but what the hell is my world? Like, I don't even know. And so I was like, I just need to slow up and let my purpose catch up to me instead of me always chasing something outside of myself, thinking that it's going to bring me happiness. I realized like I learned all this law of attraction stuff and manifesting, and you can be the creator of your own dreams. But I was always creating something outside of myself, working so hard to get there. And then that was never it. And so that's when I moved back to the East Coast, slowed down a little bit. And again, just like years back when that friend of mine offered me a job out of the blue to be his personal care assistant, I was only back in the East Coast at my parents' house for 3 weeks. And all of a sudden, this job shows up at a private independent boarding school for students with learning disabilities, with different variety of special needs, looking for an activity coordinator. I was like, holy crap, this is so easy. Like, I love kids. Like, it feels like mission filled and fulfilling. And I know how to do activities. I used to run it in Costa Rica. And so I did that for like from December all the way through COVID. And it was like still to this day, the most touching moments in my life. Like I woke up today, I have a missed call from one of my students. Like they FaceTime me, they drive me nuts. I love them to pieces. And it was the most inspirational year. But again, during COVID, I started realizing like this isn't what I wanted to be doing all the time. It helped me find myself. I connected with family and friends back home. But I had finally healed after a year and a half from that old relationship. Like I woke up in May of this year and I was like, holy crap. Like, you'll never always forget thoughts, but you're like, I'm over this. Like, I'm actually happy to be myself again. And it was a journey to get there. And at that point, I was able to start, dreaming of a life that I wanted. And so I was ready to go to grad school and dive all into this graduate program. And then a friend reached out to me in June. It was like, hey, why don't you work for this company I'm working for? It's a tech company. You could work from anywhere. And just hearing you could work from anywhere, like, and asking myself, where would that be? Bali became the answer. And that's when like this entire journey started. And once I knew that, I knew I couldn't do the grad school. I knew I had to quit my job again. I was like, crap. And I've quit more jobs than most people get. I'm like, and I hated saying goodbye to my students again because I felt like I had committed. But come fall, it just felt right. And this is again, just kind of like when I went all in for that condo, everyone's telling me how like TikTok is getting banned and all this stuff. And backtrack a little bit. I was never trying to be like huge on TikTok. Like I was trying to get 10K followers so I could be a little micro influencer and just like make a little bit of money and do what I love. And I had started a podcast when I was with my students over the past year. but I was really self-conscious about like what their parents would think of me, because we had like very prestigious parents of the children who I worked with. And I like didn't want them like hearing my podcast where I'm just shooting it real and being myself. Like I was still imposter syndrome and insecure. And so I kind of stopped the podcast. I had a ton of resistance against TikTok. Gary V's telling everyone to jump on it. And I'm like, how the hell can I get like motivational stuff out there like through TikTok? Like I can't dance. And it finally took starting in April. I started April 14th. I just went back yesterday to see my first video to like try it. And I started seeing other examples and like TikTok therapy and all these healthy like influencers or whatever, TikTok stars, giving me an example of what TikTok could be. And I didn't know TikTok was anything outside of dancing. Like I didn't know there's TikTok therapy and fit talk and travel talk and van and all this stuff, DIY moms. And so I really spent April through May, April through August, just like trying to find what my voice was. My idea was if I just put stuff out there, eventually I'll figure out what comes out of me naturally. And then it was in June when that friend was like, dude, come work for my company. And I was like, crap, I guess I want to live in Bali. And the cool part of the story was in August, on August 7th, I still only had 100 TikTok followers. So 3 months of TikTok, I had 100 followers. And then in 1 week, I gained like 15,000. So it finally took off. And then I was like, holy crap, like there is something here. People are connecting with this. I had people reaching out saying like, your video saved my life. Like people who were, ready to kill themselves that night, like really heavy stuff that, again, I'm not a therapist and didn't feel right to handle, was trying to direct them to all my therapy friends. But I was just showing me that like, there's some powerful things here with community and people feeling alone, and this stuff's important. And then come September, I kind of knew that like I wanted to be doing that full time. And Bali had just announced that they weren't opening the doors to international tourists until January. And even though I was depleted, I still knew my truth was I didn't want to be at the 9 to 5 job that I was in. And so even if Bali wasn't open, it wasn't authentic for me to be doing something that wasn't a 10 out of 10 anymore. I had hit my threshold where I was only going to do things that were a hell yes for me. If it wasn't a hell yes, it's a hell no. And so I was like, you know what? I'll quit my job, travel until January, road trip, go to Hawaii, whatever. And sure enough, I quit on a Friday, and Sunday I got an email from the place I was trying to like find like a villa to stay in Bali. And they were like, hey, we just found a way for you to get here. We can sponsor you. There's this new business visa. And so it was just another moment from the universe, God, whatever anyone believes, that like when you take that step towards your dreams, like it takes a step towards you. So yeah, that's like the long-winded version of the story. So I was like, all right, quit the job. Now I got to find a way to go to Bali. And again, not listen to the parents and the family and everyone's that's saying like, isn't Bali closed? How are you doing this? There's a pandemic. And just knowing that it felt true. And so packed up my bags a month later, landed in Bali, didn't know a single person out here. And it's been a hell of a ride ever since.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So great.
I can only imagine. I've spent some time in Bali, and I can't imagine what your first month has been like there. Overall, man, I like see a crazy amount of similarities between your mindset and mine. But more importantly, we've got to focus on you. And I want to ask you, was moving around for you more about getting away from the place you were in, or was it about going to a new place?
Yeah, no, it totally
if that
does.
question makes sense.
And I say the sad thing, it was about going to a new place. Like I wasn't running from something. And I think that's something that was so hard for me to share, because I felt like no one in my life understood that. It seems on the outside like here's this kid that's a flake that can't hold down a job and just moves from place to place. But in my soul, it was like, fuck, here we go again. Like I outgrew this environment. Like I worked so hard, and I'm so scared it's going to happen in Bali. Like I'm praying it doesn't, but it's like, I would always work so hard for these dreams, just get to the brink of like, I'm financially stable. I either have a good friend group, a girlfriend, whatever, like job, like just to the point where like I finally wasn't imposter syndrome at my job. Like I knew what I was doing in venture capital. And then I'm like, oh crap, I just outgrew it. Like I could feel the birthing of a new dream. And it was like, it sucked. Like every time that feeling comes on, I'm like, crap, I know the beginning of this because I've done it 5 times now. So at first, when I moved from, graduating college back to living with that friend at college, that was running away. That was running away from my parents. That was running away from people that said, you can't do what you love and make money. I was very about like, I need to escape that environment and surround myself with my people. And then after I did that year with my friend, I was like, all right, you know what? I'm ready to face, the family limiting belief stuff I grew up with head on. Like airplanes only take off against the wind. And so after that year with that roommate, I moved back home to my hometown at 23, 24 years old and faced all that like old school, old town Connecticut vibes of like, again, you have to grind and just get a huge mortgage and in debt. And so when I moved to Costa Rica, that's when I was finally like, all the moves after that were just, it was a calling. But yeah, after that, it wasn't running, but it stunk because it was like, I finally got comfortable in Costa Rica. And then I was like, oh crap, I want to do this for myself. And then San Diego, I didn't even want to be there at first. I was there for the old girlfriend. And then finally, after a year, I fell in love. I had the gym, I had friends. And then I was like, oh crap, but I want to live in the Virgin Islands and I hate paying rent. And then like I'm in the Virgin Islands, I flip my condo, I sell a condo, I buy oceanfront. I have an acre of oceanfront property. Like I worked my butt off for this dream land, getting this new job so I could take out a mortgage. I buy the land in February of 2019. And then by March, I'm like, ah, crap. Like I got to go to San Francisco. So it was like so freaking depressing. And then I'm in San Francisco and same thing. And I'm like, I got to be by family on the East Coast. And then I'm home for a year on the East Coast, like working from the school, living at the school. And I'm just like, crap, here comes travel again. Like say goodbye forever. So yeah, it stunk, but because I was very aware of it every time. And I'm not sure a lot of people who know me are, because it's so easy to, make judgments. But for me, I try to explain it to people. I'm like, I don't want this. It's just something I can't fight. It's like get dragged or like go with it. So yeah.
I think I like that fear you have or you said this is the fourth time you've gone through feeling of, wait, I don't know. I'm not sure if I'm going to want to do this for much longer. For me, I think that fear oftentimes is, holy shit, if I like do this the way that I'm supposed to do it, it's 35 more straight years of this. Like I love, like I'm teaching right now and I love it. I love every second of it. Like I'm happy to go to work, and when I'm leaving work, I'm not like, oh, thank God I have to go. But I still sit here and I'm like, yeah, but in like 6 months, I'm gonna want to do something different, and I know it. Like there's nothing I can't stop myself in that situation.
Right. No.
Which is a scary thought, but at the same time, like I think we're getting to the point, and I think for you, especially with like TikTok and like getting on social media, you can constantly switch it up.
And I think that's such a cool conversation to have right now, and to have in 2020, whatever day it is like, I think the problem with that isn't the problem. That's you, that's me, that's our soul's agenda, whatever. It's that we've been taught that that's wrong. It's that we've been taught, figure it out, choose one thing, and then that's what you do the rest of your life. This is who you are. But like, again, we all know the truth. Like our body sheds all its skin cells or whatever cells in 2 years. Like we're constantly growing, we're constantly changing. Yeah, we've been taught like pick a career and then that's it. And so for me, I've always felt bad about who I am. And then like other people look at me and they're like, no, like I wish I could be like as adaptable as you. But like I've had such shame around that, because I think it's like society has taught us, dude, pick a thing and then stick to it. Like I know, Sarah, you have like, you're an actor. Like I'm not sure what your career looked like before that, if you felt that same thing where it's like we're shedding these old identities of who we are. And like, what if you want to move around in your acting career? What if that looks different? Like, is that allowed? And I think, flipping into the social media influence, like that whole TikTok world, it's like what I'm probably launching a course soon on like how to build an authentic community. And one of the things I think I'm going to teach about is like, people have a fear that when they change, they're going to lose all their followers. And that fear still is rooted in this whole, like when you change from teaching, when I change from teaching, like there's something wrong in that we have to be one thing forever. But I really do give Gary Vee credit. Like Gary Vee talks about, he's like, we all know Gary Vee, whether we like him at a time, whether we hate him, whether we resonate with him, whether we don't. There was times I've totally disagreed with Gary and then totally agreed. But I know who Gary is because he's just Gary. And I think that's what we're getting to now in social media and in life, where it's like, Andrew, like that's all of you, the teaching, whatever was before that, whatever's after that, that's you, that's your whole life. Same with me, same with Sarah. And it's like trying to show ourselves that we're allowed to change. We're allowed to grow. We're not going to die and end up homeless because of it. Even though like, it's so easy to focus on what we're leaving behind. It's so easy to look at what we're losing every time we grow, and it's so hard to focus and see what we're gaining. But yeah, I think it all comes rooted from society has taught us, like, stick to one thing and that's it. And truth be told, like, I don't think the world and our new generations, Gen Z, can do that. Like, that's an unfair ask. And I think instead it's more like stick to who you are and just be aware as you change and grow. And like, good luck during those changes, because it's not easy shedding those layers, but we're here to support you because we recognize we're all human and we grow.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I love when Big Joe was on the podcast and he was like talking about how he was a football player and then he wanted to try acting, and I was like pivoting in that sort of way. And he brought up the question, like, when you meet someone for the first time or when you're dating and someone's like, oh, like, what do you do? And like how like almost silly that question is, because like, why do we need to be defined by like this one thing that we do? Like, not only am I an actor, but like I've studied a bunch of different things over the course of my lifetime. I've worked a bunch of different jobs, been interested in different things, wanted to pivot at different times. And like that all is like the makeup of who I am. And without those experiences, which I think like life experience is so important for anyone who wants to have a career in anything. Like if you know what career you want to have, like it's so important to have life experience first. And that means like finding a path for yourself that's not just like one straight line. I think like all of these experiences put together are so important to like what your character ultimately is going to be, and how successful you are at whatever it is that you end up wanting to do and like really pursuing like fully and passionately. I just think that that's like so important. I also want to ask, you mentioned like early on the law of attraction. So we were just talking to my friend Marissa on the podcast yesterday, and she in high school introduced me to the book The Secret, and we used to live by that thing. It was like our Bible. And we were like, oh my God, like we can be anything that we want if we just like attract this energy to like, and like live this lifestyle where we're like so positive and we just like always like know that it's going to happen. And like for a long time that like drove our lives. And still to this day, I sort of like have that in the back of my mind. I don't like practice it like we used to practice it, but how present is that still something that you keep in your mindset?
Cool. First, I totally agree on our life's not a line, and it doesn't have to be. And like, I love that we just have to kind of follow the experiences. And then on the law of attraction stuff, it's like, yeah, I remember again, 2013, 2014, my path of like that, call it spiritual journey, whatever, was I read the Celestine prophecy, which talks about like coincidences have meanings. You know, it's like the universe winking at you, you're on the right path. And then it was The Alchemist, which is to this day my favorite book ever. I gift it to everybody. That's like heart and soul right there. And then it was How to Think and Grow Rich, Napoleon Hill. It was watching The Secret, the movie. And it was learning that. And I think before I get into the benefits of law of attraction and that stuff, and I do want to hit like one of the myths, or like something that I think hurt me, was I take everything to the extreme. I don't mean to. My mother still judges me for it, but it's like I'm an all in or all out person. And so when I learned law of attraction, I felt obligated to obsess over only having positive thoughts and only thinking what I want. And so again, like we get so much noise in the world with how to live, how to be, what to do. And that's why lately I just try to like live my life, and then people can do whatever. But we're taught all the time, relationship coaches, stuff on Instagram. It's like, if you're attracting negative relationships or you're attracting avoidant people, like, what are you doing? And everything, like, it blames you. It's all like blaming. It's like blaming ourselves for why things show up. And it's like, let's release that. Let's like not think that all of our thoughts are controlling everything that comes in and it's our fault to change our thoughts, because there are stuff that's outside of our control. You know, thoughts are like just moving energy around that we're absorbing and stuff. And so I think for me, one of the pitfalls of the law of attraction and learning this stuff was more anxiety around, crap, I have to control my thoughts. I have to control my beliefs. I have to have a vision board. I literally, when I was living in St Croix, when I moved from San Diego to St Croix to San Francisco, I read a book called The Science of Getting Rich by Wallace D. Wattles, which How to Think and Grow Rich and The Secret is actually like underpinned from, like, they come from like his teachings, Wallace D. Waddles. I learned about that book from, like, I think How to Be a Badass and Making Money by Jen Sincero. And I read that book a page in the morning and a page at night for literally 3 years in a row. Talk about obsessive, talk about thinking I need to grind to make money in this world, and like memorize and literally ingrain in my body these beliefs. And that's what led me to freaking burnout mode October of 2019. Like, I don't have $1 million in my bank account. I'm exhausted, disconnected from myself still. What the hell am I doing with my life? And so I think, first and foremost with law of attraction stuff is like, we don't have to obsess over all of our thoughts. We don't have to be perfect. And now the second thing is like, it exists. It's there. I'm watching Kyle Cease. He's great. He's got this Absolutely Everything Pass. He's got this book and movie, The Illusion of Money. And I'm watching one of his videos in his courses through this Absolutely Everything Pass, where you get access to his like digital courses last night, called The Entrepreneurial Shift. And it's definitely catered to like an older generation of business folk. And he introduces the law of attraction. But the way he talks about it in it last night, it was as if it was like, oh, some people believe in the law of attraction, and like versus like, this is just like gravity. And it kind of like triggered me a little bit, because I was like, you know what? Like, this feels outdated. Like, I feel like our world is actually, even my like friends back home who were never into the woo-woo stuff, like, I feel like the whole world can accept that law of attraction exists, and we don't know the details of everything, just like we still can't really explain gravity in the oceans. But there's something to be said that like the power of your thoughts change your reality, Wayne Dyer stuff. And so I think the world's ready to accept that. And so, yeah, law of attraction did play a big role into my life. But again, another thing that I would like tell anyone to avoid, or something I ran into, was that, again, I felt like I was taught by society, choose what you want, manifest it. Everything's like manifestation now. But what's that really saying? It's saying that who you are, what you have right now is not good enough. It's saying that the negative friendships in your life, the bad toxic relationships, the bad jobs, like, it's bad. Go after something else. It's saying that there's good and there's bad, and that we have preferences. But that's all ego. The real world, when we start saying we need to manifest something else, what we're really saying is, I'm in resistance to my life right now. I'm in resistance to my internal world because I'm unhappy with what's around me. I'm in resistance to my external world because I'm unhappy in my job. And I need to go fix that. I don't trust the universe. I don't trust somebody else, God, to do it for me. I have to go make that happen. And so what that does, working backwards, is saying that like, we cut off the power from God or the universe or other things to help us, because we think we have to go manifest it. And we're creating a disconnect and resistance with our current surroundings. So my new thing, and I think the world's moving into this, is like, yeah, law of attraction exists, but the key to anything is honestly acceptance. And there's a difference between acceptance and tolerating. I'm not saying we tolerate our bad relationships. I ran the hell away from my toxic relationship, and that was the best thing ever. But it's accepting where we are right now. It's accepting that we're unhappy. It's accepting that we want to manifest something. It's accepting that we have preferences of good and bad. And so I think from there, we can manifest in a healthy place. We can envision what we want. We can work towards it. We can be guided. But I think in regards to law of attraction, it's like, yeah, our thoughts do change our reality, but our thoughts, call it 10%, and then call our subconscious thoughts 90%. So we could do all we want up here, thinking about it, journaling like I did, reading pages every day. But the real work begins, whether you call it inner child work, shadow work, deep healing, therapy stuff, like, and get a therapist to do it. I didn't, but I read a lot of books where it's like, we dive into what's going on in our subconscious. We dig up those trapped emotions from childhood, from relationships, and we release that stuff. Because just like a thought can attract other things, well, imagine what a trapped emotion attracts. If an image is 1,000 words, like, call a trapped emotion in your body 1,000,000 thoughts, so to speak. It's the same thing. And so if one thought attracts something, how fucking much is our like trapped pain, our trapped shame attracting? So it's like, we could think all we want, but the truth is, it's like, let's clear out our subconscious. And that the way to do that is just by accepting when feelings come up, accepting the unhappiness, just sitting with it. And so, yeah, that's my thoughts on that.
Fuck, how do I sign up for your next class?
Yeah, my mind just exploded.
Yeah, it's wild.
I think it's extremely impressive, like the number of books you've just were able to reference in a matter of one question. I think it's equal to the amount of books I've read in my lifetime. But it's very impressive. I do want to ask a little bit more about that transformational year. Bring it back all the way back to when you were working with your friend with cerebral palsy. Is there any specific things about that year, or was it just the overall idea that you were no longer having to answer to your parents, answer to the people around you, that made you kind of transform?
Yeah, the funny thing was, on paper, it's nothing anyone would guess. So it wasn't the fact that my friend lived in a wheelchair. It wasn't that like I was rebelling against the parents. It's actually a sad story. It's that friend, he was 21. We moved in together in September. His older brother died in October. His older brother was like 22 and a half, not even 23. It was his best friend, his rock. And outside of like his older brother, I was the only one that saw my friend as just a normal kid. That's why like I gave him shit. I yelled at him if he took forever in the shower. I don't care if he's in a wheelchair. Like, come on, buddy, hurry up. And so we always had that camaraderie. And so watching him lose his brother was life-changing for me. Like that was like the hardest year of my life, of his life, because I mean, the kid's journey, like everyone saw, he's one of my best friends, Jamie Breen. I'll throw you his Instagram handle. Like he wrote his own book, like he did motivational speaking. Right now he needs a kidney. I want to go get blood tested for him. Like that was always his whole journey. And everyone always saw him as like he's overcoming being in a wheelchair, but that was just all he ever knew. He didn't think anything of himself in a wheelchair. He's a normal kid. Him losing his brother and trying to finish senior year of college, that was his journey. So that was the transformational part of that year where I was his light. You know, I remember writing, and he'll tell you, I wrote a freaking piece of paper and stuck it on the door that just said like, what makes you happy right now? Like we weren't even about like how to get through each day. We were getting through each moment. It was like, what is one thing you could focus on right now that makes you happy? And that wasn't toxic positivity. That wasn't denying the feelings. It was literally digging as deep as can be, because he was like contemplating bad stuff at times where it's just like, how can he get through that moment? How can he get through that day? And he was a champ. His parents are champs. Like for anyone that's dealt with loss, like the biggest compassion I could ever give. And so that was the story of that year, was watching my friend deal with the loss of a brother who is in a he's in a wheelchair and pushing through to get his freaking 4-year college degree at a pretty prestigious school. And so it was exhausting on my behalf. Like by the end of the year, I was like, bro, I love you, but like, I gotta go like do my thing now. And he was graduating anyway, but it was like, it was definitely being the positive light in somebody else's corner. Also realizing like, you can't do everything for somebody, but it did show how like, you know, I doubted it that whole time. I didn't know what I was doing. I wasn't a therapist. I'm putting something on a wall, just trying to keep my buddy afloat. But hearing his story after that, how that's helped him, how I forced him to write a book, how he actually wrote that book, like all that stuff is what pulled him out of that place, then showed me later on for the rest of my life, like even when I was in like my own dark place, like no, like positivity is a choice. And somebody just commented that on my TikTok video. I made a funny video where it was like, comment your assumptions about me. Because for any of us, like people assume a lot of stuff. And so it's cool. Somebody wrote, I don't think you were just born positive. I think maybe you've had life experience and you've learned like positivity is a choice. And so I think that was kind of the lesson of that year, was like, I wasn't sure of it before then, but after that year I learned, I was like, no, like you can find that silver lining. And in fact, whether you want to or not, like when you don't have a choice, that is do or die. Like it's either find that silver lining and create yourself a reason to go on, or just go downhill. And so I was moved by my best friend being able to choose that for himself, because I couldn't choose him for him. But yeah, that was, I think, the real transformational part of the year, was like me and him singing Goo Goo Dolls at night, crying, thinking of his brother, and like all those laughs we had, and just realizing like there's more to life. Like at the end of my life, it's not going to be that I flew in a private jet a few times in St. Croix, or I get to buy a villa that I'm dreaming about. It's the fact that like I was with my buddy during a rough time, or I got this other kid a job at the travel company after I left. Like I've kind of learned that like those are our purpose. It's not that one job. It's not that one career. it's all the little things we did along the way, and just like being at the right place at the right time, connecting the pieces. The things that seem insignificant are actually going to be the stuff we're most proud of. So I think that was kind of my takeaway after that year together.
Wow.
Unbelievable. Just fantastic answer after fantastic answer, but that does actually bring us to a close overall. I have a feeling all of us could sit here and probably do this for another 6 hours, but we sadly can't do it on recording, so we are going to have to sign off. Before we do so, Kevin, please let everybody know who's listening what are things we can be looking for, where we can be finding you. Just plug whatever is needed to be plugged.
Cool. And first, guys, yeah, so amazing to be here. And I would love to hang for hours. So definitely have to do it again. But yeah, you could find me Instagram and TikTok at WellnessKev. And I'm going to be launching a course soon, probably about how to build an authentic community, how I went from 0 to 70,000 in 3 months on TikTok, and hopefully launching a YouTube channel soon. I've been getting a lot of crap about that. But yeah, find me on TikTok and Instagram at WellnessKev.
And we'll see you in Bali.
Yes, come visit anytime, guys. For real, I will show you around. We'll link up in the villas.
You're in Canggu.
Yeah,
I think
awesome.
I saw. Yeah. Oh my God, it's the best. It's the best part by far. That's my favorite part. Long shot.
I know. Like, I'm coming here this morning. I'm like grabbing a smoothie, a vegan cookie. I'm like, where else can I get a vegan cookie at 8 a.m.? Like, I'm in a podcast studio that I rented for like $13. Like, there's just everything here. Like,
what's
it's
it?
nuts.
There's like one of the best lunch brunch spots I've ever had in my life. There, it's like a big outdoor. It's right in the heart of Canggu. Big outdoor,
Crate
like
Cafe.
warehouse looking place. What is it?
Is it Crate Cafe? I think it's Crate Cafe. Everyone goes to it. There used to be a huge line there.
Yes,
like, they come out food fast. Yeah, it's like this big slab of concrete and a roof, and in like a big bar. Yeah, Crate Cafe.
Unbelievable. It is. All right, well, we appreciate everything, Kevin. For all of our people listening, please go follow at WellnessKev. Also follow at Sharin Stories, and like and subscribe on the bottom. Thank you all so much, and have a wonderful day. Thank you, Kevin.
Cool. Thank you, guys. Cheers.